Right now, something very unusual is happening in the economy. Major companies are laying off thousands of workers whilst reporting record profits. Recently, Amazon announced plans to cut thousands of corporate jobs, and tech companies are aggressively investing in AI systems that can perform work that used to require entire teams. And everyone keeps saying that this will make businesses more productive. But there's a problem that almost nobody is talking about. If millions of people lose their jobs, who is going to buy anything? Are we headed towards a future where a handful of companies own all the robots, and the robots are essentially just serving each other? Or is something else about to happen? Because when you really zoom out and really look at what's happening right now, you realise something interesting. This isn't just a technology story. It's a jobs story, an economic story, and increasingly an energy story. In this video, I want to break down in simple terms what the next 5 years could realistically look like. Which white-collar jobs are likely to be hit first, which jobs will probably survive the longest, and why the real bottleneck in the AI revolution might not actually be software, it might be electricity. The first phase is where AI becomes the intern. Let's start with what's happening right now. The first stage of AI replacing work doesn't look like mass unemployment, it looks much more subtle. Right now, AI is becoming what you might call the perfect intern. It can summarize reports, it can write first drafts, answer customer emails, create presentations, generic basic code, analyze documents, and it does all of this instantly. So what happens inside companies? Well, the senior employees don't disappear, but suddenly they need fewer assistants. And this is already starting to change how companies structure their teams. Think about a marketing department that used to have a senior strategist, a couple of mid-level managers, and 5 junior staff producing content and reports. Now imagine the same team with AI tools. Suddenly, the strategist can generate a campaign outline with AI, the mid-level manager can generate first draft reports automatically, and the presentations get built by software. The research gets summarized by an AI model. So instead of needing 5 juniors, maybe they only need 2, or maybe just 1. And that's why the first jobs that AI disrupts are rarely the most senior ones. The first jobs that get squeezed are usually the entry-level roles. And this creates a really important problem that very few people are talking about yet. Because if AI starts replacing the entry-level jobs first, how does the next generation ever gain experience? But before we get into that problem, let's talk about which jobs are actually most exposed. So let's talk about the white-collar job replacement ladder. Not all jobs are equally vulnerable to AI. Some are extremely exposed, some will change but survive, and some are much safer for now. So it helps to think of this like a ladder. Tier 1 is the first jobs to be hit. The jobs most exposed to AI tend to share a few common characteristics, and they are repetitive, digital, rules-based, and heavily text-based, and those roles include things like admin assistants, data clerks, payroll processing, basic bookkeeping, and first-line customer support. Also, anything with transcription or documentation roles, junior recruiting roles, and basic market research positions. And why is that? Well, because those jobs are essentially about processing information, and AI systems are extremely good at processing information. So what happens here isn't instant elimination, it's compression. What used to require 5 people might now require 2. Tier 2 is the next jobs under pressure, so the next layer include jobs that require a bit more judgment, but still involve a lot of structured work. For example, junior accountants, paralegals, compliance analysts, junior coders, basic graphic designers, copywriters, producing generic content. Business analysts producing standard reports, sales development reps sending out outbound messages. Those roles often survive, but the team sizes shrink dramatically. Instead of 5 junior analysts, a company might hire 1 highly skilled analyst using AI tools. And then tier 3 is jobs that survive longer, which is the jobs that are hardest to replace, and they tend to involve things AI struggles with. So human trust, relationship building, negotiation, judgment under uncertainty, and real-world accountability. So things like senior sales professionals, or deal makers, or relationship managers, or strategic consultants, or experienced operators, leaders responsible for decisions, and roles that combine technical knowledge with human management. But here's the thing, AI is very good at generating options. But when something goes wrong, someone still has to take responsibility. And right now, that responsibility belongs to humans still. So let's take a look at a 5-year timeline. Let's zoom out and imagine what the next 5 years could look like. Because these changes won't happen overnight, they tend to unfold in phases. So year 1, AI becomes the assistant, companies experiment with AI tools, workers become more productive, layoffs remain limited, but executives are quietly realizing something important. They may not need to hire as many junior employees in the future. Then year 2, AI becomes the first draft worker. AI begins producing first draft documents, first draft reports, first draft marketing campaigns, first draft code. And suddenly a huge amount of initial work disappears. The humans now mainly just edit and supervise, and this is kind of where we are now. Year 3 is the junior job crunch. This is where systems begin to feel the pressure because companies stop hiring as many entry-level employees as possible. AI can already perform much of the early career work, which means fewer graduates get hired. And this creates a really strange situation. Companies still want experienced professionals, but fewer people are gaining experience. And some of the bigger companies, that's where we are right now as well. Then year 4 is the consumer pinch. This is now where the economic tension starts to appear. If too many workers lose income, consumer spending slows down, people delay purchases, subscriptions get cancelled, luxury spending falls, and companies realize something very important. AI can make a business more efficient, but it can't magically create customers with money. So year 5 is the split economy. And by this stage, the economy may be dividing into 3 different groups. The first group are people who own productive assets, companies, equity, intellectual property, infrastructure. The second group are people who use AI tools to multiply their productivity. These workers become extremely valuable. And third, people whose jobs were largely based on repetitive digital work. Those roles experience the most pressure. But here's where the story kind of takes an unexpected turn. Because if AI continues growing at the pace we're seeing right now, the biggest challenge might not be jobs, it might be power. See, AI models require an enormous amount of computing power. Training a large AI model can consume energy equivalent to thousands of homes. And the data centers running these systems require electricity around the clock. So as AI usage explodes, so does electricity demand. And suddenly the AI race becomes something else. It becomes an energy race. The companies that can access cheap, reliable electricity gain a huge advantage. And this is why solar energy matters, because solar energy is becoming extremely important in this race. And that's because it's scalable, it can be deployed quickly, and its cost has fallen dramatically over the past decade. But solar alone isn't enough, because the sun doesn't shine all of the time, which means energy storage becomes critical. And this is where batteries enter the picture. Now, most people think of Tesla primarily as a car company, but Tesla is increasingly becoming something else, a battery company, a grid stabilization company, and potentially an AI infrastructure company. Because large-scale batteries allow renewable energy to be stored and then used when demand spikes, which makes solar energy much more practical. And if the AI economy continues expanding, energy storage may become one of the most important industries in the world. And then there's the idea that sounds like science fiction, but it's being explored by serious researchers, and that is space-based solar power. In space. Solar panels receive sunlight almost continuously. Some researchers are exploring whether satellites could generate energy and beam it back to Earth. And others are exploring the possibility of orbital computing infrastructure, AI data centers operating in space where solar energy is abundant. Now, that is still experimental, but it shows how far the AI infrastructure race could eventually go. And think about Tesla again and how many satellites they're putting out. It's all starting to make sense, right? So, when people ask what happens when AI replaces jobs, the answer's rarely simple, but first, the technology increases productivity, then certain jobs begin to disappear, then the economy adjusts, and eventually, new industries emerge. The real question isn't whether the economy will change, because it will. The real question is where individuals position themselves in that new system. Will they rely entirely on labour, or will they build skills, assets, and systems that allow them to benefit from the new economy? Because every technical revolution creates disruption, but it also creates opportunity. The challenge is recognizing the shift early enough to adapt before the system fully changes. So if you found this breakdown useful, let me know in the comments what industry you work in and whether you think AI will help your job or threaten it, because the conversation around this topic is only just the beginning. So I want to bring that out. And the next 5 years are likely to be some of the most interesting economic times we've ever seen. So until then, thanks for watching. Grab a copy of my book, always free, and I'll see you in the next one.